extremely specific way. Now, if you don't know, this is the failed Mercedes-Benz A160, which came out A160. Sorry, I'm not a Mercedes person. Which came out in the late 1990s. Well, mid 1990s. And this was essentially Mercedes trying to loosen up a little, be with the kids, right? This was the fun car, Dad had the A-Class and you had this, and that's how it went. No one bought it because, just to spoil the thing here, if you're buying a Honda Civic sedan, a Honda Civic hatchback, you're not considering an A-Class. Number one, the starting price was up there with other Mercedes, which was ridiculous for something that looked like an egg. Number two, it didn't pass the roll test, which meant that they had to redesign it, and Mercedes was having none of that. And the third reason why this completely failed, period, was because people didn't want to buy a non-luxury Mercedes, right? Mercedes had spent so much time crafting their name as a luxurious, which is so hard to do, as a luxurious, nice car brand. And then they came out with the A-Class, and it wasn't that it wasn't reliable or anything, it just wasn't luxurious. It had cloth seats. Had this weirdly skinny steering wheel thing that the steering wheels just always look very weird to me. This weird wavy dashboard, it just wasn't a luxurious car, and the buyers didn't like that. The Volkswagen Phaeton is a luxury car made by a non-luxury company for the purpose of existing, I guess. So, that for the same reasons that if you're considering a Honda Civic hatchback, you would not be considering an A-Class, if you're considering a Lexus LS, you're not considering a Phaeton. In fact, if Volkswagen was just in an echo chamber, a cryo chamber, right? Volkswagen owned itself, that's it. It was like Mitsubishi, well, a couple years ago before Nissan killed them. You own yourself, you are the only car company you own. This would make sense, right? You're a Volkswagen. You need to show off the luxury touches to your brand, right? It's a perfect, beautiful car. The interior was amazing. You could either have the wood vent thing folded down like here, or you could have it folded up to reveal some nice air vents. You had a touchscreen, which for 2002 was great. You had this weirdly, with luxury cars, they always have very, sturdy but dainty steering wheels, like the Lexus models. This one has more of a truck driver steering wheel. I'm not saying that it's bad. I'm saying it's a very, masculine, grip it very hard going down the road at 60 miles per hour steering wheel for such a, nice little sedan thing, right? It's not a bad car. It was just not great. It had an amazing engine. One of the best engines Volkswagen's ever made. It was a luxury sedan. Now, usually, like I said, if you were in a cryo chamber, this thing sounds great. It looks awesome. It looks like a very nice car. But believe it or not, Volkswagen number one wasn't in an echo chamber. Because if you wanted a Lexus LS, you're not going to be looking at a Phaeton. And you're going to be looking at a Volkswagen, right? Not a Volkswagen. You're going to be looking at an Audi, right? Audi is where you're at, not Volkswagen. You would never consider buying a Volkswagen model. A lot of the people that buy luxury cars is for prestige, right? They want to feel like they're worth something, right? So they buy a luxurious car thing. Why do they all have these super masculine steering wheels? It's not bad. It just doesn't make sense. Like I said, Volkswagen already had a luxury division, and this isn't where GMC was conceived. If you don't know, GMC was imagineered by a guy, by the CEO at the time. Essentially, if you were a Chevrolet, no, not a Chevrolet dealer. If you were a Chevrolet dealer, yada, 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 they needed heavy duty, Buick and Cadillac. If you needed a truck, you would buy a GMC. It's the higher version of the Chevy trucks, right? That's where GMC was conceived. The Volkswagen Phaeton is kind of like that. It would work. If this was you need something for the dealership, right? You have a Volkswagen dealership that doesn't sell Audis, they would need a luxury car, and the Phaeton seems great. And that's what they thought, because it worked with GMC, right? It worked with that. It didn't work with Edsel, but, that was to be expected. And it worked with something like the Avalon, right? Didn't work with this. Why? Well, usually when a car company like this comes out with a car, a luxury car for their buyers, right? They usually include Volkswagen-y touches, right? The standard car brand touches. It doesn't look like the other brand of car. A Toyota Avalon doesn't look like a Lexus. It's a Toyota, but just a really nice Toyota. This didn't feel like a really, really nice Volkswagen. It felt like a kind of slightly watered down Audi, and that's why people just didn't buy it. They always overlooked it. Because, again, if you're doing research on what luxury cars to buy, they're going to recommend the Audi before they recommend, the Phaeton. And remember, no one had any idea what this thing was. Let's say it's 2002. You don't have a computer at your house, which is unlikely. I mean, it's 2002, whatever. And you're reading through magazines. You're not going to see something about the Phaeton. You're going to want an Audi. And when you bought a Phaeton, it wasn't like the Phaeton was its own brand name or something. Like, the Avalon. People in Avalon can say, oh, I bought an Avalon. I care about reliability. Can't say that with this. What are you going to say? I bought a Volkswagen. I care about chrome. I mean, there's not a lot you can say about just buying a regular Volkswagen. Like I said, it felt more like a watered-down Audi than it did a really nice Volkswagen. Again, amazing, fantastic car. In fact, a lot of the technology... Remember, this is 2002. This isn't 2012. This is 2002. 10 years earlier than 2012. This is amazing for 2002. I mean, like, compared to the Jettas, the Jetta coming straight out of the 90s, this thing was amazing. This thing was great. So, why didn't it sell? Like I said before, people just didn't want a luxury car from Volkswagen, right? That was just the hard truth. And another thing that, I'm just going to point this out, Volkswagen didn't help is that they didn't update the thing. A lot of car companies try and update the vehicles ever so often, right? So that they're still fresh, still current. This car hadn't been updated in 13 years by its discontinuation in 2016. No, 14 years. It had been out since 2002, discontinued in 2016. This was the model, this was the interior, that's what it looked like in 2015. Now, you may say, well, why wouldn't they update it? Once you've got vents with hidden wood, you can't follow up with that, Once you've got heated, cooled, and massaging seats, what are you going to do? Put extra massage in there or something? I mean, they changed the steering wheel slightly. It looks a little bit better. They updated the screens and the technology tiny little bit. They didn't change it all that much, and this isn't an instance, I say this a lot, where a car company killed a car by just not updating it and then said, oh, looks like people don't want that car. For American car brands, when they make cars, they say, oh, guess people don't want sedans, when actually they just made shitty sedans. That's why Toyota's still selling Corollas, when Ford can't even get a Fusion out the damn door, right? This isn't a case of that. It was a fantastic car. It was great. And this car was very much still relevant by 2015. It wasn't like this was a Model T or something and like you're going camping in your own car. I like to say that you're going camping in your own car. No. I mean, true luxury, like I say, true luxury is always better than screens, right? People like to put tech. There's a difference between technologically being good in that respect and then being actually luxurious. This is actually luxurious. I'm sure 100% if I kick that dashboard, that would be fine, right? It'd be great. I would kick it, it'd be fine, it wouldn't blow up in my face, right? But still, it's just the small things about it. It wasn't a bad car. It was it was very reliable. A lot of people loved it. But at the same time, first of all, like I said before, I know I'm repeating myself a lot, but I'm really tired. This was a Volkswagen luxury car that didn't feel like a Volkswagen. It felt more like an Audi, and yet it still had the stupid Volkswagen dimmer switch. It still had all the Volkswagen-y things with it trying to be a luxury car. It just didn't fit in. I mean, let's look at the lineup for 2013, shall we? Where does the Phaeton fit in? So you have the Beetle and the Beetle Coupe. Great, amazing cars. You have the Fast CC, the EOS, which is fun, the GLI, which is always interesting, the affordable, cheap, nice, cute Golf, the Golf R, which is affordable, cheap, fun, the GTI, which is different from the GLI, it's different. The GTI is also a lot of fun. You have the Jetta, just cheap, affordable transportation. You have the Jetta Sportswagen, which is great. You have the, of course, all-amazing Passat, the top of the lineup. You have the Tiguan SUV, and then you have the Touareg SUV. Where the hell does the Phaeton fit into all this? You have the CC and the Passat, which are both in the same thing, and then you have the Phaeton in there somewhere. Like I said, the reason why the Avalon worked and the Phaeton didn't was because the Phaeton, don't think of it like an Avalon, right? The Toyota Avalon, is it the nicest sedan Toyota has to offer? In some respects, yes. But it's still a Toyota. This is competing with Lexus and Mercedes, and yet it's still a Volkswagen, right? The Avalon, right? It's not competing with the Phaeton. It's competing with the Passat. That's why this thing never worked. No wonder. And also the Passat just looks newer. Yes, sure, the other interior is nice. Sure, the other interior is more luxurious. But this one just looks nicer. Out of the two, I'd still rather be in the other one, because Volkswagen. But this one is also extremely nice. And considering how much cheaper this one was, the Passat. And again, like I said, this wasn't competing with the Avalon at all. Not at all. This wasn't competing with the Avalon. Like I said, it was competing with the A classes. Stuff like that. Top tier luxurious sedans. And yet the only time people would ever discover this is when they went looking for a competitor to an Avalon or something luxurious like that. Or even an Acura or something like that. That's when they're going to find the Phaeton. Not when they're looking for this. So instead of it being in the class that it's supposed to be in, right? With the Audi pack, right? With the Lexus pack, with the Mercedes, right? Where it should have been, it was, oh yeah, that really expensive, not that much more luxurious version of this. People just bought the Avalon. The Avalon was so much cheaper. I mean, it wasn't a great difference, but it was pretty big in price difference between the starting price of the Avalon and the Phaeton. And if you're the average consumer, you're not going to know how great this thing is. You're just going to see it. You're going to say, wow, that looks the exact same. I'll have the Avalon. It's cheaper. I mean, that's just what Volkswagen did here. It should have 100% been an Audi. Because like I said before, this car slaps. I mean, it was great. Everything was perfect, except for the cup holders. I've never personally sat in one of these. From the many reviews that I have watched, too, they seem awful. I'm sorry. I like something sturdy because I know my things rattle around. I'm going to scuff that edge. I'm going to crack that wood. I'm very aggressive with my cup holders. I think I've replaced the door on my Prius cup holders like 3 times. Yeah, it's a very nice, beautiful, luxurious car. But the Volkswagen crew didn't want it because it was too expensive, and the Audi crew wanted an Audi, not a Volkswagen. Like the Avalon. You could make the argument that it's competing with the ES, but it's really not. The ES is on a different level. The Avalon is in its own category. This isn't true. It's directly competing with Audi, which is arguably, not that either of them are better. I think both an Audi and a Volkswagen Phaeton would hold up against each other, right? And instead of making the Phaeton like its own brand or something, right? Like Ford tried to do with Edsel and then failed miraculously. Not really miraculously, they just sold it as a Volkswagen, It's just not in the same length, not in the same area, right, that the other luxurious cars were. So, with that, thank you for watching. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. Now, before I end you off here, why should you care? You just watched a video, and, you're probably going to comment something. I don't care. Anyway, you just watched an entire video on the Volkswagen Phaeton, right? An amazing, luxurious, great, luxurious sedan, right? Why should you care? Why does any of this apply to you? Because, like, the same with all my vehicles, I'm never going to have a bad American car on here. If you want a cheap, beautiful, reliable transportation, you can buy these for, like, 18 to 12 grand, and that's a steal considering you get more than you need ever. Like, this is probably if I bought this car, this would be probably the most luxurious car I've ever owned. Not because I don't like luxurious cars, because I like my Prius better, right? I like the Prii, right? That's just where I sit. This car is perfectly amazing, perfectly luxurious, and if you want a decent, reliable car, I will say, the V6 likes to guzzle gas as well as other things, but it's still a decently reliable car. Like I said, this is probably better than any new Volkswagen you could buy, especially used, just because newer Volkswagens, they're put together kind of shoddy. So with that, thank you for watching. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe, and I will see y'all real soon. Hopefully.